So this is our DSLS overview for today. The agenda as follows. We're going to talk about what is Dassault Systems Licensing Server, or DSLS if you've never heard of the term. Some minimum system requirements that are needed. What's new in DSLS 2016X. After that, I'll go through an installation and configuration demo to show you how it's installed and how to configure your licensing clients along with that. We'll also talk about enabling license tracking. This definitely helps you utilize and see what licenses are being used if you need additional licensing. So it's got a lot of neat stuff in there. We'll also talk about some advanced options in DSLS that you can implement in your company as well. And as Dan mentioned, we'll end the webinar with a questions and answers section. So what is DSLS? It's a program created by Dassault Systems to help manage licenses for a lot of DS products. It does help the administrator to guarantee the license control is implemented in compliance with your licensing products. This is a typical representation how a setup will look. You've got your physical server there, and then you've got your clients that do connect. These are going to be your minimum system requirements for DSLS setup, and we're talking 2016X today. I won't read all of them, but the top 4 are the ones that are commonly used in our business. Windows 7, it's got to be Service Pack 1, 64-bit, Windows 8.1, 64-bit, and those 2 are not available for failover. Failover, we'll get to that later on in the presentation. The most recommended ones are the Windows Server versions 2008 R2 and Server 2012 R2. They do need to be 64-bit to be compatible with the latest releases of CATIA, and for this release of DSLS, it does need to be a 64-bit machine. For allocating RAM, you do need to have a minimum of 2 gigs of RAM. Although 4 is recommended to make sure you have enough resources there. For standalone and for failover, that's also 8 gigs. So make sure you have your resources allocated for that. Some more insight on the virtual machines are not supported. So any type of software such as a VMware is not supported. And it's not possible to run or install DS license server on a virtual machine. There's also an extracting feature. You can check off licenses. That is not supported on virtual machine as well. License servers and the client must be synchronized. You have to have an hour time difference. That way you can communicate back and forth with your client and license server. And only one DS license server can be installed and configured on a given computer, such as a standalone or if you have failover. So what's new in 2016X? There's some enhancements that allow you to enroll licenses a whole lot faster and easier. As soon as you do the installation, allow you to install your license at that time. Licensing ports, you can change the add and licensing ports if you need to. If you do need to do that, you can do that from the startup. There are some rules for offline extraction. If you like to have some restrictions on who can check a license out, for how long, or to deny any request, you can also do that with this release. And license usage traces. It gives you a little bit more detailed information about the license usage in the server logs, and I'll also show you how to access that and find those server logs as well. Okay, I'll go through our demonstration now. Just give me 1 second. All right, you want to make sure and have the latest release of DSLS. This is 2016X. However, this is with FixPack 3, and you can always request that from support@incepture.com, contacting media@incepture.com, or give us a call at 1-877-972-6362. I'm sure most of you know that number, but this ensures that you do have the very latest release of the software. So to install it, you want to go ahead and extract it and then run the MSI file that I'm going to do right now. And when you do that, it brings up the installation wizard, as you see here. It tells you which release you're on, 2016X. Simply click on Next. And then this gives you the path of where everything's going to be installed. It's recommended to leave this as a default. Now here are the options where I was mentioning earlier for an enhancement. You can actually click on this button here to enroll a license file, and it'll give you the path to find where your license is at. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to browse to where my license file is at. I've got it in the same location here. So simply click on that, hit OK. And before I move on, I just want to mention to you also the administration port and licensing port is here on the beginning of the installation path, so you can adjust it if needed. So you simply click on Next, and it tells you ready to install DS License Server. And simply click on Install, and it's going to go ahead and install in the background there. All right, and once you're done, you're going to get a pop-up. You just click on Finish, and bring everything over here. The server names where you want to go ahead and initiate that here. I'm just going to simply put in my server name here, and click on Connect. And once you do that, you get the screen here. With previous releases of DSLS, you'd have to install the program, and then you'd have to reopen it and click on the Connect button. This just makes it a whole lot simpler. You don't have to worry about enrolling the license file manually anymore. It does all that for you. Now once you have it installed, your screen will look like this, and there's different tabs. The administration tab shows you what license you have, how many, the end dates, and also gives you the ID of it. The license usage here shows you what who has a license in use and how many you've got. We'll talk about authorizations a little later. The statistics, this is where you can monitor those files. So what we want to do first is you want to go ahead and initialize that. So what you do is you double click on your computer name, and it brings up your server configuration option here. It gives you all the basic information about your DSLS server, computer name, ID, the build date, and all your ports. So what you want to do is you want to make sure and check on enable license usage statistics. I also do this for license recycling for V6 customers. And I'm also going to set this to restricted for now. This will allow your clients to view licenses, and we'll go through that a little later. You click on Apply. And for demo purposes, I'm going to connect to one of our other servers so you can see some activity. If you do have multiple servers you want to connect to, you simply click on the Servers button, click on New, and just type in the name of that server you want to connect to. And then you click on the Connect button like this. All right, so now you have two visible servers that you're connected to. This is my main server, and this is the remote server that I can monitor. So this also gives you all the properties here. So this is helpful to show you if you have multiple servers, and also to show some statistics. So if I click over to the Statistics tab, you can actually select which server you want to monitor. You can choose different various options: number of licenses in use, total licenses, percentage of licenses. For example, if I click on this and I just want to see my V6 licenses, I can change this to named user, and it'll give you a good graphical representation of what license you have and how many are in use. You can actually dig down a little deeper. For example, if I wanted to see how many CSV licenses and who are using them, it tells you, you've got 16 out of 81, 19% of them are in use. I clicked on that, and it brought up a magnifying glass, so we can actually get a little more detail on that. It tells you for the last 12 months. You can go back a little further. The minimum is 12 months to look at those stats. So I see for the month of March, we use a little bit more licenses. So I can actually click on the magnifying glass. It tells me exactly how many licenses, 31. I can actually look at the day as well. So I can say, you know, on the 11th, we use a little bit more licenses. I can actually click on that and break it down by the hour. So you can see what is the peak time that my users are needing licenses. So it gives you a lot of good information through the statistics here. And you can just close that. You can also print it out if you need to show any justification. So it does allow you to do that print as well. So I'm going to click on back and close. And every time you open DSLS and do any type of operation, you can view that by the server logs. For example, when I installed DSLS today, right? So let me switch back to the presentation here. Just 1 second. All right. So once you've installed your server, you want to make sure and set your clients up. And this is done through the program data directory. You want to make sure, and this is not hidden, because by default with Microsoft, this is a hidden folder. So you want to make sure and you do create a new DSLS text file here, and then you enter the host name, port 4085, and for demo purposes, you just want to replace that with your actual host name. So do that. So again, you go to your C drive. You want to make sure program data is visible. Click on Organize, Folder and Search Options, View, and you want to, by default, this option is selected, Don't Show Hidden Files and Folders. So you want to go ahead and click on this and then hit OK. That brings up your ability to see the program data. From program data, you'll automatically have a Dassault Systems folder that's created for you. This is the folder that I just created for licensing. So let's get rid of this one here, and I'll show you how to create it from scratch. So you click on New Folder, and inside this licenses folder, you want to create a text file. So the simplest way is just click on New Text Document. Now I've got extensions shown here. A lot of times people try to create this text file, but they won't realize that when they create it, they're actually putting in a double extension. So it'll be .txt by mistake. So an easy way is just to make sure you show hidden extension. So we want to name this DSLIC SRV, enter, and it should look exactly like this. And inside this DSLS text file, you simply open up your notepad editor and put in the name of the server. For example, the name of our server is Brian P300. So we'll go ahead and put that in here. And port 4085. And if you wanted to connect to additional server, you simply click enter and add the additional server you want to connect to. So for example, I added that V6 server, so I'll put in V6 server. And same thing, 4085. So now whenever I launch a session of CATIA or Novia, it'll allow me to look both places, both at my server and an additional server. So you can simply save this, and that's done. So now you've got your DSLS text file, and you can now launch your application. Okay. This showed you the process again. We simply went through it, and this actually shows you, again, how to enable those log files. And they're actually stored on your system. If you go to see Program Data Dassault Systems, it'll show you a copy of those log files as well. So we'll go to that while we're here. So Program Data Dassault Systems, same place you created your text file, you've got a license server folder as well. And you've got your log files right in here. So you can just simply open those up with the text editor. And this essentially shows the same exact information that we had in the graphical representation inside of DSLS. So it gives you two options to look for those log files. Okay. And again, this just shows you where the statistics at, so you can go back and check that. These are our rates that we saw earlier. Here, the from date, you can set this back at a minimum of 1 year. So if you want to go back to January of 2015 or further, you can do that. So, and again, it shows you the calendar icon for that, and the server logs, which we just went through as well. And this is again the location of those server logs. Now moving on, we've got some advanced options that we can also utilize in DSLS. Failover mode is one of those. This allows you to configure your licensing architect as part of a cluster of 3 servers. What this does increases reliability, not capacity. I know in support we've helped customers set this up before. Basically, if you've got a lot of licenses that you share and you want to make sure you have a backup, you want to get this set up with 3 clusters. And the limitation on this, it has to be a server 2008 R2 or server 2012 R2. Windows 7 machine or Windows 8.1 will not function. You will need a dedicated 3 dedicated servers to enable that. And once you get that set up on your server names, it'll look something similar to this with the 3 different server names and your server IDs. And this will, if you need to make any changes, you'll get this dialog box here. Okay, next are license authorization rules. This allows you to allow, deny, reserve, or limit licenses based on users, hosts, or IP ranges, along with created user groups. As you can see by this representation below, you've got your licenses on the right side, and then you've got 2 tables here. You can create users here, you can create hosts or IP ranges, or if you want to have just a group, for example, if you have a team of engineers working on a certain part, you can just create a group here and then just name it, door, door group or so, and then you can actually assign licenses to those groups. So, pretty neat function. All this information is also included in the DSLS PDF that's included whenever you install the software. Definitely feel free to call Inceptia if you need help or a question with that as well. And the admin tool. Those of you who are familiar with the old LUM, it's similar to that. What this allows you to do, it allows you to, a client to connect to the server to see what licenses are available to me. If you want to work on a project and you want to check and see what's available, just install the admin tool only. And I can show you real quick what that looks like. Okay. So first what you want to do is whenever you initialize your server, to have that functionality, you want to move this to restricted. I recommend restricted versus full. Restricted allows clients to remote in and connect to the server and look at the licenses. If you select none, none is by default. If someone does try to install them, they will not be able to see licenses until you actually move it to restricted. Full is an option as well. I don't necessarily want to give users the availability to delete or add certain functions, so it's a good idea to keep this on restricted and hit OK. As far as the software, where you go for that, let's find that here. When you go to install DSLS on a client, it's the same download, the same software. You run the same MSI. You get the pop up again. Well, we have it installed. There's actually a admin tool only function that you can click on that allows you to install that. It's telling me, this is only has removed right now because we actually have DSLS installed for the demo, so I'll cancel that. Again, if you have any questions or concerns on how to allow your users to have that, just contact us and we can help you with that process. All right. So that's pretty much it for the overview and installation. Now we can open up to some questions if anyone has any questions about anything.
And again, feel free to use the question and answer panel to get your questions. So we have a couple questions in. I'll read through some of them. So Brian, one question came in was, what is the lowest release of CATIA that will work with?
The latest service pack and latest hotfix in order to get those, but it's definitely
All right. And another question on upgrading. Do I need to upgrade DSLS to work with the latest release of CATIA?
Yes. The latest release of CATIA right now is V5-6R 2016X, actually 2016. So in order to use the latest release of CATIA with your DSLS, you do need to make sure you've got 2016 licenses along with DSLS 2016X. So those are two things you need to do. Just contact support@inception.com if you need to do that, and we'll check to make sure that your licenses are 2016. If they're not, we'll go ahead and order them for you, and we'll also send you a link to upgrade to 2016X. But yes, you will need to make sure both of those are in place.
Okay. All right, we got another question, kind of the flip side of that, is DSLS 2016X backward compatible? Or will it work with older versions or lower releases of CATIA?
Yes, it definitely will. It is backwards compatible, so you can use from R19 up to 2016 with no issues. And actually, it's probably best to make sure you're on the latest release of DSLS because there may be bugs that are fixed in the latest release. I know, for example, 2014X, people who had that release, there was a huge Windows update, I think sometime in May last year. And when that Windows update went into effect, virtually wiped out DSLS 2014X. So Dassault created a fix for that, and that's why it's always best to be on the latest release of DSLS for any bug fixes or patches that are done. And as I mentioned earlier, 2016X is out. However, there's already FixPack 3 that's available, so I encourage everyone to make sure you're on FixPack 3. And simply contact Inception.com support, and we'll gladly send you that link and help you install it if you need that support as well.
Okay, a couple of questions on assigning like offline licenses or license checkout. Somebody asked if you could demonstrate that. So I don't know if you have that capability available. If we can demonstrate, or we can maybe create a quick video of that and attach it to the other Q&A responses when we send that out, whatever your preference is.
Okay, I've got CATIA here. Let me load it for you just a second here. I can demonstrate that. It's called Node Lock Key Management. Simply, you go to your start menu of Windows, all programs, and then you open your CATIA folder, and then there's an option called Node Lock Key Manager, which I've just launched. It's going to take a couple seconds to bring up here, but I'll demonstrate how to check that out. Just a second here while it's loading.
All right, let me try another question while it's loading that's related to that. Can you restrict the duration of licenses to check out on 2015X?
Yes, you can do that as well. Whenever you open up the tool, once it launches here, I'm just waiting for that, you can actually restrict that. You can actually assign it a password. That way it prevents any users from checking out a license that you don't necessarily want them to have access to. All right, here is my Node Lock Key Management here. So again, this is within the tools options for CATIA. You open up your tools, and then you should have an option for offline management. So what you do is you click on the offline management tab. You click on refresh list, and at the bottom, these are all the different licenses that are available to you that you can check out. So for example, I'm a user, I'm connected to the server, and I open up my Node Lock Key Management tool. I can simply find the license that I need, and it does have a max duration time here of 30 days. Let's expand that a little bit here. And so I simply right-click that and extract, and then you can adjust the time accordingly how many days you need to check it out for. So once you do that, just hit OK, and it'll give you this pop-up saying that it's successfully extracted, and then you should see it here. It tells you the name of the server you extracted from, the license, and this warning is yellow because it's indicating to me I've only got less than a day left. If you did it for like 2 or 3 days or so, it'd be a green status. And whenever I'm done with this license, I simply connect back to my network. I select it here, right-click, and then I can either return, or let's say I've got a hot project I need a little bit more time on. I need to extend this to 7 days. Hit OK, and then it extracts it here for another 6 days and 23 hours. So, and then to return it, you simply hit the return button, and it asks you again, do you want to return this? Okay, and now it's no longer in my offline column here, so it returns back to the server and the available license for me to go ahead and check out again. And a follow-up to that, for example, if you click on the authorizations tab, as we mentioned earlier in the demonstration, on the slides, you've got the different groups here or different users. You can add a user, host, or IP range here. But for extraction, you can simply right-click here. You click on the Control Offline function, and it gives you a warning. Are you sure you want to apply this feature? You click on Yes. And this is where I mentioned to you earlier, you can limit the days from 0 to 30 days. If you want to put a keyword in, CATIA, you can just put that in. And what will happen is your user will also need this extraction keyword enabled to take that off. And then you can add the rules here if you want to have no rule at all, or if you want to allow the rule, deny it, or you can actually take a step further and deny it to different users, host, IP range, etc. Okay.
All right. One other sort of follow-up question to that is, what if the license is checked out and then the laptop is dropped, lost, stolen, run over, etc.?
In that case, the license, once it reaches its end of life, it'll return to the server. Unfortunately, if you don't have that machine anymore, you can't restore it back to the server. In the case of an emergency, if you need that license ASAP and it runs a situation like that, just contact support at inception.com and we can go to different options. We can work with Dassault to possibly regenerating your license keys. So that's one solution if that ever comes up.
Okay. And it looks like the last question we have currently is if the admin tool is installed for the clients, do they need to update Service Pack on the client side as well, or is that only on the server that you'd have to do that?
Right, you don't necessarily need to do that. It's recommended to. That way you can utilize all the functions of it. For example, someone asked me today, can I have 2016X on the server, but also have the admin tool only be on 2015? It'll still function, but you may not get the same functionality across the board if you do not have the matching code on both sides. So it'll still work, but we definitely recommend making sure that those two are at the same level, same code, even fixed pack. That way they can communicate properly and you won't have any issues.
Okay. All right, that looks like all the questions we have today. Thank you again, everyone, for your time, and have a good rest of your day.